ChatGPT versus Claude versus Perplexity. Today I'm joined with Dennis Yu, who's done a lot of split testing between the different LLMs. He works for a lot of different contractors in getting knowledge panels, improving local SEO, maps rankings, and doing almost everything related to digital marketing. So today, because I've seen you doing this test in depth with regards to the pricing, the context window, and what works best, when you're doing the comparison between ChatGPT, Claude, and Perplexity, which one comes out on top and why?
Well, let me show you, James. I'm going to share my screen, which I see very few people actually doing. So rather than like give you an opinion, let me show you what's going on. So we spoke earlier how ChatGPT has this Atlas browser you can see here, right? So Atlas is a Chromium browser. So as I'm doing stuff like I'm making Facebook posts or I'm working, there's my calendar with meetings. We have a dashboard of different sites and whatnot. And I ask it to do stuff, right? And what happens is this little window on the side, like here we're chatting in LinkedIn, I can open up this window on the side and tell it to do different things, right? All kinds of stuff. And if it's got access to my Google Photos and my email and whatever, it can do all these different things, which is awesome. My buddy who's basically almost professional athlete, yeah, here, I said, how do we make his site better? Because it built the site, right? And it did a great job. Gathered all his videos, repurposed them, right? And I constantly say, okay, what else? And I speak to it. And then, do I want, do it or not? And in agent mode, it does it. And I've spent about $20,000 in the last 6 months burning credits on ChatGPT via Atlas because of agent mode. Sometimes I go into pro mode where when you first start a new project, you often want to go into pro. And that basically costs you about $1.50 in tokens. And you can see the way the agent operates when you get the glistening dots is it then starts to do different things and it starts to open tabs and it starts to do work if it has the access and if you're clear about how you want to do stuff, right? So this has been, I think, very good for the last 7 months or so. And so I was very loyal to ChatGPT, even though I was burning $3,000-$4,000 a month, right? So then Claude, and I'm one of those who are like, I don't want to do the Claude thing because I got too many things going on. Now do you see how many tabs I have open?
Yeah.
I've got maybe 70 tabs open here, and this is 128 gigs this is a fully stacked out MacBook Pro. So you can see I've got 128 gigs and it's using 108. And in Chrome, it's about a gig per tab. So you see these groups like these lines, like this blue line, that's a tab group. So like here, I have it auditing a series of websites and then turning those, you pull in the transcript, turning them into articles, right? And writing emails to team members, paying invoices, right? And this, looking at themes, all of this stuff. So Claude is able to do the work in a slightly different way because what'll happen is it also starts opening tabs, but then it's able to work longer. So if we look at one of these ones where, here's a book that we're writing that I've not finished. Let's see if I can find one of these other ones. So you can actually see it at work. Okay, here. So just to give you context, I said, hey, I love the idea of building in public, which is what we've been doing, right? So I said, go look at all the stuff on how we do that and write this article about how we build in public and find any article I've written about that topic, about how we document what we do and how do we do that and how do we store things in different ways and how does that propagate across the team and clients and all that. And I speak to it and look, it tells me how many steps it took and it starts to document and it takes screenshots and then it makes recommendations. And then I say, okay, well, how do you make that better? It says, well, you should do this, this, and that, right? So notice how it is more persistent. And then it takes 102 steps. And it might work for 40 or 50 minutes. And it's doing these things, right? So it does all this stuff. Then it comes back and it tells me what it did. And then I'll come back and I'll say, awesome, that's great work. Can you go ahead and write a meta article based on our meta article guidelines where we document what we do? Because obviously, if we're talking about how we build in public and we share exactly how we do everything, it would be hypocritical to not write an article about how we do that. And then it goes to town. And then if I open another tab, I can say, or actually I can go to one of these other ones, And I'll say like, where here's, hey, I forgot what we were saying about writing meta articles. Can you go look at our article on how to write articles? And that has lots of examples of how we do that and how we define SOPs so that as our agents learn how to do stuff, they continue to update the document. It's recursive. They get better. They learn from themselves. And we send agents to these articles. At the same time, we also have an article on how to write a definitive article, which is how to tune an SOP and how these different SOPs are linked together based on what we do for SEO and PPC and whatnot, so that the more experience we have, the more Zoom calls that we have, the more data we see from Google Business Profile and Ahrefs and whatnot, the system just learns from itself. The agents learn from themselves. They document everything, and they document it in such a way that we can move everything to ChatGPT or to Gemini or to Grok or whatnot, because we've documented our knowledge outside of any particular system, so we are not locked in. Go ahead and audit the document. This is so meta of what we're doing, but go ahead and audit what we've done there and figure out how we can make this system even better. And if we need to write another article about this that doesn't conflict what we've already said, then please go ahead and do that. And then this might go work, James, for another hour or two, and it'll be very thoughtful, and it'll come back and I'll say, I sometimes have a contest to be like, well, how can I get the thing to work the longest? I've been able to get it to go up to like 700 steps and work for 4 or 5 hours, which you can imagine what the token cost of that would be, right?
Yeah,
so this is my favorite place to work.
So are you doing everything now? Have you moved everything over to Claude with regards to workplace? So no Perplexity, no ChatGPT.
No, we got Perplexity here too. So Perplexity has a comment browser, and there's some pros and cons with Perplexity. One thing that Claude and ChatGPT can't do very well is download and upload documents, but Perplexity kind of will. So here you can see when the blue dot is blinking, that means it's working, right? So as I'm getting to do stuff, right, it's the same kind of thing where you see here where it says assistant. It's the same like little thing in the side, where you're able to chat with it as you're doing work. You pop the thing open saying, hey, you see what I'm doing here? Go ahead and, do this thing, right? So as I'm, I have it send emails, or I have it track, where I have vouchers or flights that are changing or someone's wedding or, calendar meetings or all that kind of stuff, right? And it will manage these things for me, like a travel agent, like a web developer. Hey, rebuild this WordPress site, blah, blah, blah. Like it will do all these things. And the beauty is when I do this in Perplexity, which is a model of models, you see here, I can choose which model I want. Now, because of business and because of right now, I mean, these things change all the time because these models leapfrog each other. But right now, 4.6 is the best one for people that do SEO. So when I've maxed out my Claude, because you see here, you have, for usage, you have a session limit of 5 hours, and you have see, look at this. I don't want to go too far, but here, in this session, I've used 57%, and of my weekly limit, I've used 24%. So if I happen to reach this before the end of the week or before the end of the session, rather than going to extra usage, which will burn you, that's how you know how expensive it actually is if you hit extra usage, I'll switch over to Perplexity, and then I'll continue to use 4.6 out of Perplexity. So that's how I'm probably burning $50,000 a month in tokens, and I'm still paying $400, $500 a month in total. I am just like, I'm the guy who goes to the buffet and just eats steak and lobster. I bankrupt the buffet. That's what's going on.
That's a good way of putting it, to be fair. Right, so if people, let's say you're a business owner or a contractor and they're looking for simplistic measures, so they're gonna, when they're doing the difference between ChatGPT, Perplexity and Claude, let's say they go all in on Claude and they're not going to be using the full usage. They're going to be paying the $200 a month, but they're not going to be using the full usage.
Yeah, so you could start with the $20 a month plan, which is the basic Claude Pro, and then they have a 5X plan, which is only $100 a month. And what you do is start with the $20 a month plan. And if you run out of credits, move up to the $100 plan, and then move up to the 20X plan, which is their biggest individual plan, which gives you 20 times the credits as the regular Claude Pro. And that's the $200 a month one, and if you're able to use that up, and a lot of my friends that I've gotten on, like they've lost sleep. Like I look at them like, Dennis, damn you, I stayed up till 3 a.m. because of what you showed me because it was so good, and I, now I'm hooked, and which is great. We're hooking people on the good drugs, but yeah, just start out there, and if you like it, and there's like start out with things that are repetitive and are well defined in your agency, right? Things that you don't like to do but you need to do, like sending out weekly reports or pulling data together, or like whatever, auditing websites, like stuff that if you have if you've done it before, you can upload all your previous examples, or if you have a project management system like we do via Basecamp. I have it go to, I probably have 700,000 emails in my Gmail. And then in Basecamp, we have 3,000 client projects we've had over the course of however many years. And we just let it go to town on that. And there's so much work that can be done. So now you're just thinking, anytime you have an idea, this is how my life has changed, James. Anytime there's something I want to do, all I need to do is think of it and just get it done. I don't even have to worry about prioritizing. I just do it.
Yeah, that's crazy. And with regards to like simplicity of, let's say, repurposing content or social media, how easy is it for someone to be pre-logged in, let's say, to the Twitter, the LinkedIn, and all the others, and then just have it each day going posting on there, posting photos
Super easy. In fact, I'll just show you. So do you want me to use ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity?
Use Claude.
Claude. Okay. So Claude inside Chrome, which is where I am now. Let's just say, I'll do a search here. Watch this, real time, okay? So I open up, so I'm just browsing Chrome, right? But then I'm like, I want to pull in Claude. And then I say, and you could also use WhisperFlow, which is great at dictation. James Dooley and I have made a lot of content, as you can see here, and it's been on YouTube and it's being partially repurposed, but I know that we can repurpose things multiple ways, because it can be, from my point of view, the same content can be repurposed from his point of view, my point of view. So I want you to write multiple blog posts, you choose, on content that he and I have written together, because we're helping SEOs and agencies and digital marketing folks be able to stay on top of the latest trends. And right now we're talking about the differences between Claude and ChatGPT and Perplexity and Grok and Gemini and whatnot. And I want you to write an article that fits, that meets our Blitz metrics article guidelines. So for example, embed the YouTube videos, choose proper categories and tags inside WordPress, yada yada, all that stuff that you know that you need to do. Go ahead and do that and make it better. Like pull out the key quotes. If you need to create a diagram explaining a concept just to make it visually easier instead of just a bunch of text, go ahead and do that. You don't need my permission. And then I want you to write a meta article explaining what you did. How many steps did it take? How long did it take? How many tokens would you estimate that we used? And what would have cost if we had to use the API to do that versus just using our Claude 20x Max account? And then estimate how many hours a human would have had to do that, whether it was a VA from the Philippines or a staff member in London. And do that thoroughly, because so you're going to publish a number of these articles that are repurposing what we've already made. You're going to create a meta article about all these different pieces. Then I want you to cut out some of these snippets, and I want you to post on my Facebook and my LinkedIn about what we did here. And then I want you to go into my LinkedIn and send a message to James explaining what we did in detail. And feel free to admit that you are the Claude AI that's doing it. So now it'll go to work for a couple hours.
That's crazy.
So you talk to it, and a lot of people don't realize that you see how talking to it unlocks a whole, because of the level of context you can provide, right?
Yeah, for sure. Anyone who's watching this, look at the differences there that Dennis is sharing. There's a lot of people out there on YouTube videos or sharing blogs, and the same why one might be better than the other. Dennis here shows the practical ways of being able to use Claude over Perplexity and ChatGPT, or alongside. If you want any other videos like this, check out the links in the description. There's a dozen different videos where Dennis explains all the different LLMs and what he's using it for. He dives deep straight into which AI platform is working best. At present, he believes Claude for Chrome to be the best. Now, that could change in 1 to 2 months. So make sure you subscribe over to Dennis. And Dennis, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Amen. Guys, jump in. There's so many changes and all that, but I'm telling you, it's amazing. You will not believe how much you'll love this stuff.